Welcome to episode 12 of Quadocast, entitled At Their Whim and Means of Vertical Transport. So I've been getting plenty of questions since episode 11, what 98% of the community doesn't know. Which is it, 14 days or 30-day notice? We still don't know. That was part of the point of the video. Any normal president would go to the lawyer to get a legal opinion and immediately post it to condo control. End of subject, done deal. But we don't live in normal, and it's been a long time since we have. Instead, all we got was rogue dribble from Lewis saying I could choose which way we want. It's the board's prerogative to choose. So I replied to him, along with plenty of board members, November 21st, still well before that budget meeting, when there's still time to have done something about it, and ask what informs you that you have the flexibility to choose at your whim whether to give it 14 or 13-day notice for the budget meeting. Hopefully it's something you are making up rather than paying for bad advice. Again, there is no way I'd buy into a lawyer saying you have a choice. The reason I think it is 30-day notice, no questions asked, is that there's a hierarchy of governing documents. You start with federal and state law, which would supersede whenever there's a conflict with governing documents. But as long as there's no conflict, the narrower documents rule. So on the subject of budget meeting notice, 718 does say at least 14 days, but our bylaws states no less than 30 days. Our bylaws don't conflict with 718 because no less than 30 days is at least 14 days. Therefore, our bylaws rule it's not a choice at your whim. You want to do 14-day notice? Well, then change the bylaws. That's how it works. And of course, deaf ears from everyone, including all the other board members carbon copied on this. Instead, what do we have to show for it other than Janelle mocking that they only gave 2-day notice last year and no one cared, as if it just makes it all right? It's not all right, and here's why. Because we used to do it right as the norm around here. Here's a rec agenda for our budget meeting 5 years ago. Anyone remember? Oh, that's right. Most of the people on the board didn't live here then. You could see when it was posted, October 26th, 2018. And you could see the date, November 27th, 18th, more than 30 days later. We used to do 30-day notice. We used to actually care about our bylaws. But today, what do we have? Can you even remember when the last rec meeting was? And I don't mean the budget meeting. And I don't mean their two closed-door legal meetings. That doesn't count. For the community, when was it? September 5th, 4 months ago. Simply put, rec has been left for dead. And even though that fact alone should be obvious, Lewis has no business serving as president, what does it say about the other 7 rec board members? Just sitting idly by, la-di-da-di-da. If any one of them even slightly cared, they would have reorganized this board, decided a new president, and started moving business along. Garbage in, garbage out. You keep voting for the same people, you're still going to get the same results. Stop falling in love with the happy talk. There are doers among us. Look at the candidate bios, people. It's right in front of you. Actually, let's step back and take a look at that September 5th meeting, right? The last public meeting we had in rec 4.5 months ago, almost going on 5 months. And now let's take a look at the very last thing they voted for before adjourning. According to the minutes, Lewis introduced a motion to formally explore property-based locations for the installation of electric vehicle charging stations to comply with Florida statutes. Well, that's a fool's errand and horseshit. There's nothing to comply to from the association. Harmless enough, they all voted unanimously for it. Nothing wrong with exploring. The exploration could have ended in that very moment. And here's why. If anyone bothered to check 718, it says, plain as day clear, the Board of Administration of an association may, not must or shall, may make available, install, operate an electric vehicle charging station upon the common elements. There's no requirements. There's nothing to comply to. In full disclosure, there have been modifications to 718 that puts the burden on the unit owner, that the unit owner is entitled to rig their spot, but they have to pay all the costs, the liability, etc., etc. That is not our job or burden. We should not be kowtowed into thinking it's an absolute must. We've been misled, and now there's evidence that's a bad idea, especially by ocean high-rises. Whenever you got the mixture of salt and water, it leads to problems. Here's a reminder what happened in Sarasota just a few weeks after the meeting.
It burst into flames. The fire spread to the home and burned it down.
What?
The owner says the car was parked in the garage during the storm. It was not plugged in.
Oh, was it?
And it was raised when 8 inches of water covered the floor.
What is happening right now?
That is terrifying.
But it doesn't end there with Louis the Pontificus. There's a strange irony, for as much as he loves the happy talk and the dwindling numbers still jaded buying his Eskimo ice, he's only held 4 regular board meetings in the last year at Britannia. And I'm not counting the ones you have to do, like budget of the election. We are talking the tradition of regular monthly meetings. To the people of Britannia, how is this even acceptable to you? On one hand, it's not my tower, therefore not my business, but it does affect all of us because you're sending 2 to rec, and rec has been the problem. If we all want better community and better lives, it starts with better governance and starts with rec. Send us good people. And since Louis does not seem to be in the legal opinion business, knowingly and willfully violating meeting notice laws in both associations, Britannia and rec, where's the legal opinion between 2 board members in a spousal relationship serving concurrently according to your amendments? Who's following up on that? That legal opinion has gone MIA, missing in action, the same way the board meetings are missing in action. Not all is lost. There is one bit of good news. Britannia put out a newsletter this month in January, wishing everyone a Happy New Year. I did find one part of it amusingly odd. Look over here at the service elevator. They're asking the community to use the 2 passenger elevators instead, but as a means of normal vertical transport. Think about that. Who on earth would write means of normal vertical transport to describe a service elevator? That's the problem with his words in happy talk. It's words for the sake of words. Forever trying to sound like the smartest guy in the room, as if elevators in his world might operate sideways and be a means of horizontal transport. How about the Jetsons' cartoon jetpack? That would be a means of vertical transport. Or better yet, how about jumping off the roof of Britannia? That would certainly be a means of vertical transport. Unfortunately, there's one more thing to cover. Remember Mark from Catania on the rec board? You know, the guy who sent me a crazy text 6:45 in the morning in episode 10, ranting about Hitler and Nazis, among other things. You know, the guy who wrote he wanted to do something for MLK Day, but he couldn't because it was MLK Day. I really wasn't going to say another word about him, but he couldn't help himself. So on these Facebook groups, a neighbor sent me this screenshot. He goes out of his way to try to report one of the Quadocast videos as hate speech, which is completely unfounded and full of it. Meanwhile, he's the biggest hypocrite of them all, as he's known as one of the most vile, hate speech spewing posters on the very same Facebook groups. So you could add him to the list of yet one more board member that really gets into suppression. There's actually a side of me that feels a little sorry, because it's very possible that he doesn't know what hate speech is. He might think hate speech is speech he hates. It's laughable, and it's certainly unbecoming of a board member. And I'll say the same thing I just said about Britannia. Catania, your tower is your business. I don't live there. But stop sending second-rate people to rec. It's hurting us all. He has no business being on rec, and it's up to you whether you want him on your board or not. And on a final note, there's one more means of normal vertical transport, which serves as a great metaphor for what the power of your vote is all about, which is to say a final goodbye to those board members that are not serving us. And on that note, I am wishing everyone a great weekend ahead.